I'm Dr. Richard Abbey. I show parents of children suffering from ADHD what to do so they don't have to suffer anymore. Today I'm going to tell you about what you should really be looking for in a state-of-the-art modern neuropsychological assessment. Not only should you be looking at the strengths and weaknesses of things like learning, attention, memory, executive functions, looking at emotional functioning, intellectual abilities, processing speed, and working memory. Those are basic things, academics, how they're doing. These are things that, most people, if they're going to do a neuropsychological assessment for you to determine actual functioning, are going to do. The thing that most people miss is what the brain is doing. So, it's really important to look at the brain activity and what's leading to those weaknesses, where they are, and what can be done. So, if you're going to go in and maybe you had some heart trouble, you would probably do an EEG. Maybe they image your heart. You have a knee problem. They do an X-ray or an MRI. You know where I'm going with this, right? Even the dentist will image your teeth to determine if there's a cavity. The eye doctor will do things to your eyes and image them and do all sorts of things. So it's really important to look at the function of the brain. We can do that. Modern technology, you should be able to do that in a neuropsychological assessment in any office you go to. And what do I mean by the functional part of the brain? You should be able to look at all aspects from a three-dimensional standpoint, all the way down to very core areas of the brain to look at what is it doing. And because when you do that, it helps you understand what's happening with the brain, and what is causing the symptoms. And then you can better design a treatment plan, an intervention plan, a strength building, build the muscle of your brain plan for your child. So then they can build those areas that have been identified as weaknesses. The areas, and look, I think we all got to get over this. It's not like there's something wrong with them. It's that there's an area of their brain or many areas of their brain or connections from one part to another, front to back, top to bottom, left to right. Lots of different pathways that are supposed to be developing. And perhaps they're like this amazing reader, or they can, play the violin in a certain way that's awesome, or great basketball player. They can do math, but they can't focus. They have trouble completing projects, to follow through, to have the grit, to get their homework done without being told 20 times, right? So wouldn't you be curious, not just, well, a lot of these things, they can't do that. And so an assessment helps with understanding the functional part. The assessment should help with the understanding of what's going on in the brain and where is it going on in the brain. And those things should be a part of your neuropsychological assessment, no matter where you go today. And those things should be reviewed with you. And the thing about that is when you are able to do that, instead of this deficit-driven model of accommodations in the classroom, if you haven't done this before or haven't talked to anybody, basically what comes out of a lot of these assessments would be, you get extra time in the classroom. You get preferential seating, right? On standardized tests, you get extra time. The problem is there's no extra time in life, right? There's no extra time when you get in your relationship and you're married, or you have a deadline in your career and work, and so those things may be temporary solutions that help you get through exams and school. The real big thing, though, is if you can then use that information from the neuropsychological assessment that showed you what's going on with the brain, that showed you the functional aspects of maybe they couldn't focus for long periods of time or divide their attention, or maybe something's going on with their executive functions, higher order processing is difficult for them, or organizing, or kind of carrying through on that plan. Where is that happening? And when you really get down to it, it's just a lack of maturation. That part of the brain, those parts of the brain didn't mature as quickly as other parts that are amazing for them. So the only real solution to this, no matter what you do, there's one real solution, just one, and that is to accelerate the maturation of those areas of the brain that were lagging behind. So if you can do that and catch those up to the areas that are already optimized, the ones that are like doing amazingly well, you would think like, great, they can focus and concentrate and all those things. And it's amazing. But what we found is something happens that's even more extraordinary. Because if you've had ADHD for a while, now maybe it's not ADHD, maybe it's a relative weakness in attention, whatever it is. But if you've had this for part of your life and you've tried to compensate in some ways, and you've strengthened the muscle so you can focus and divide your attention, and you can plan, execute, and now you got the grit, you still get to keep those compensatory skills and abilities that you had when you weren't able to do that. So now your child becomes their superhuman self, the one that you've always seen inside them. They get to take those gifts with them and keep them. So when you do these things like brain building, build the muscle of the brain, your child is the same person. You're not going to lose your child. They're actually just this better version of themselves, and they become this extraordinary version of themselves because other kids, let's say you have an 8-year-old kid or a 10-year-old kid or 12-year-old kid, their peers haven't had to try extra hard to build up these compensatory skills. But your child did. And the fact that they did means that they get to keep those. Plus, now they've got this even playing field where they're just as good or better with focus, laser focus, focusing for more than like 30 seconds. You don't have to repeat yourself. They get started on homework on their own. They don't like start building up this negative self-image about, why can't I do this? And I'm just not smart enough. And like, believe me, they do that over time. They start getting these false negative messages from, the people around them. Well, you're not doing this because you're lazy. You're not listening to me because you're just like not paying attention to me. And why wouldn't you do that? And yeah, they feel terrible. Trust me. Kids want to do their best. And when they can't, they start falsely concluding there's something wrong with them. But when you do an assessment and you figure out what their strengths and weaknesses are from a functional aspect, what are they able to do? What are they not doing so well at? Where is it going on in the brain? Why is it going on like that in the brain? And then you kind of do a personalized training program with a coach and you build those areas up. That's what a neuropsychological assessment should answer for you. So what are the questions? If you're out there shopping for a neuropsychological assessment, like, what should you be asking? And so you should say, like, well, what are the things that you're going to take a look at? Because there's, there may be some competing areas that that would be helpful in a differential diagnosis. They're going to tell you all those things, right? Hopefully. And so then you should ask, like, okay, so what are you going to do in terms of looking at the brain activity? I should be able to tell you that. We're going to talk to you about the energy. Where is there too much slow energy, a lack of energy? Are their connections well established? Are the various areas that are connected, kind of the neurotransmission, the speed of their brain functioning, is that looking pretty good, or is that off? Is that the reason? And where is that? And why is that? You should be able to ask them all those things, and hopefully they can give you some answers about that. And really, the big one is, what is your approach? Is this a deficit-driven model? Are we kind of just talking about accommodations and maybe some medication to boost their brain while they're in school, or is this a strength-based assessment where you're looking for what they have in strengths and using that information to determine what their potential is to bring their weaknesses up to a certain level? right? So so okay, I'm at the other end of this assessment. What are you going to ask? You're going to ask, like, well, how do they get better? Well, you can do stimulant medication, the thing that has been done for 40, 50 years or better. And the question would be, okay, then, if that can happen, and that, so what does that look like? Well, to be honest with you, some of the things that you have to worry about with that is uh, getting the right level without having side effects, without getting too jittery, getting the right levels that will last long enough all day. When you do your homework after school, is the medication lasting long enough? Do you have to boost that? What are the effects of the medication? Maybe a suppression in appetite, difficulty sleeping, which, by the way, when you sleep, that's when you consolidate memory. So that's kind of a problem when you're trying to learn and remember things and go to school. And then, the big question about medication is, okay, so then medication, is that going to help my child's brain develop so then they don't have ADHD anymore? And the answer will be no. Is that going to, if they stop doing medication, will that help my child's brain in any way? Or are they back to the same brain they had before? Yeah, they're back to the same brain they had before. So then the question is, well, what kind of plan is that? So you would want to figure out, like, what are the potential solutions that you're going to offer? And if they don't involve something like helping your child with their own internal resources, take those areas that are lagging behind, that were identified in the neuropsychological assessment, the areas that, were done with the brain imaging, that were identified, that were shown to be lagging behind in terms of their levels of energy that they're producing. Is that appropriate for their age? Are the connections appropriate for their age? Are they moving appropriate for their age? And if they're not, what's the plan to make them better? Do you even know that information? And what is your experience doing that with all the clients you've worked with? This is a modern neuropsychological assessment. If they can't answer those questions for you, you may want to look around for people who can, because you want something that, when kids are teenagers or when they're in college, they may or may not take their medication anymore. And I've actually never met a client ever who's like, oh, I'm going to take medication for the rest of my life. Like, when does that end? That's a good question. Okay, so my child's going to take a stimulant medication to help them. How long do they have to take it for? The answer would be like, well, how long do you want their symptoms to be reduced? The rest of their life? Okay, well, then they have to take it the rest of their life. What else do you have that would, these are the questions that parents ask me, like, well, what else do you have that would help them besides that, or maybe in addition to that, so they have something while you're working on these other things? And hopefully they have a lot of really good answers for you, because really in today's modern society, there are many things that do that. They exist. Hopefully they know about them and they can help you with them. We've been doing this for more than 15 years, putting together programs, and have a lot of experience in that. So whomever you work with, that's the punchline of the assessment, right? Like, all right, where do we get started and what do we do? And what are the outcomes like? And what is your experience like that? So now that you're educated about what a neuropsychological assessment is, from a kind of gross overview, now you got homework to do. Go seek somebody that can do all those things, who can not only look at the learning, memory, attention, what is the neuropsychological profile that matches what their brain is doing, how are those correlated, and then what is the potential? Like, can you tell me if my child, wants to get better and mature their brain and make it better? Like, what are the possibilities of the outcomes? Everybody's different. Like, nobody knows the exact answer to that. But what I would tell you is that I've personally never seen a single child who actually completed one of our programs or a similar program that didn't get exponentially better just by doing those exercises. Let us know if you have any questions. We're more than happy to help. We have a lot of things that we can do, and this is the type of assessment that we offer, if you're wondering, where we actually look at the profile of what your child can do, and then we look at what the brain is doing, and we show you all that information and give you a plan on how your child can get better. My name is Dr. Richard Abbey. Give us a call or click on the link below to schedule your appointment, and we look forward to seeing you.